presented by Verizon, isn't it?
Yes.
We get you started in Cleveland with the Hawks and the Cavs, and then it's the Pelicans and the Kings from Sacramento. Here we are, Atlanta Studio B. Ernie Johnson, Chris Webber, Greg Anthony. This is always a
Professor Chris Webber.
Yeah, look, it's very professorial.
Very studious.
Thank you.
But
That's what glasses can make you do. Yeah.
always a strange night because you want to watch the election returns and you want to watch hoop, and so we kind of juggle that action, right?
Multitask.
We get the best of both worlds, though. We get to watch the game and just check in on the election and not have to just sit by there and watch it all night.
We have something very special in store here on this edition of Fan Night. I can't wait for this. Isaiah Thomas has an impressive resume. Led Indiana to the NCAA title in '81, led the Pistons to back-to-back titles in '89 and '90, was named one of the 50 greatest NBA players ever, and is enshrined in basketball's Hall of Fame. But nowhere in his resume do you find the title political correspondent. Until tonight. He is at Hillary Clinton headquarters in New York. Isaiah, what brings you to Clinton headquarters on election night?
Well, when you talk about, sport and politics, they're very eerily similar in terms of competition. And, if the camera would just pan a little bit to my left, we would see that we got an injured player over here, got a sprained ankle, the Steph Curry or Isaiah Thomas wink wink sprained ankle, from combat battle. But when you talk about what I'm experiencing here is kind of like Game 7 atmosphere. You don't know if you're going to have a parade the next day or 2 days from now, or if you're going to be going home, packing up your locker and the season's over. So the excitement here and the tension here, is very thick, and I'm actually enjoying it and just getting a very good understanding of how this political arena works.
Isaiah, we know you're very involved in your community. Regardless of who wins tonight, those kids in your community that you work with, and let's maybe just keep it to kids who are the fans, and you're a child advocate, what do you think that those communities are asking of this country at this time right now? What do you think the issues that the children, maybe even those that can't vote, but what type of issues do you think that are out there for their future and their protection and growth in the future?
So when you talk about the kids and the young people of America right now, I think there's two issues that are the main concern, and that's the social justice issue in terms of what's happening in America in terms of social justice, and also the economy. When they graduate from college, will they have jobs? Can they earn a living? Can they fulfill and have the American dream that we all have been sold on? I think those are the two main driving forces for the young kids today.
And Isaiah, you talk about the young people being from Chicago. I mean, you're well aware of all the issues they've had there with gun violence. Is that another area where you personally, I know you've done some stuff there in the summer to try to bring some harmony to that city. Is this also kind of like a teachable moment for a lot of those same youth as we move forward?
Yeah, it's a teachable moment and also an historical moment. I don't think we can underestimate the the historical significance of a night like tonight. If Hillary was to become the first president, the first woman president of the United States, what Barack Obama did for us as African American men, and the pride that we took from having a African American male, sit in the White House. I think this will be the same significance for women. And when you talk about gun violence, we all understand and we support the Second Amendment. But I think the militarization of guns out on the street and the militarization of our police forces right now, those are the things that I think both candidates are talking about having some type of understanding and sanctions around in terms of how do you regulate the weapons that are coming into the people that are on the street. I think everyone understands and wants the Second Amendment and is for the Second Amendment, but in terms of regulating the type of weapons that are on the street right now, that's a big concern for everyone.
All right, Isaiah, I guess we can now include a political correspondent on the resume we talked about before. And it's going to be a long night. Enjoy yourself. Great talking to you. And hopefully we will be talking to you as the night goes on.
Well, I look forward to talking to you guys. And Greg, save me some of them lemon pepper chicken wings, baby.
I got a 20-piece for you, baby.
All right, you know that. All right, Chris, don't let him eat it all.
I got you. Save you some.
All right, Isaiah Thomas in New York at the headquarters of Hillary Clinton. Now, on the other side, we do have an actual correspondent, CNN's Jim Acosta is at Donald Trump headquarters. He's in New York.
That's right.
So, you know, you heard Isaiah Thomas talk about like a Game 7 feel to it. I mean, have you calculated, Jim, how much time in recent months you have spent on the campaign trail, and what kind of a feel does this night have for you?
Well, Ernie, just to give you a sense as to how much time I've spent on the campaign trail, when I go home, my kids refer to me as CNN's Jim Acosta. But, putting that aside, and Isaiah is a tough act to follow, you know, this has been an extraordinary campaign year. I've covered 4 presidential elections now. We haven't seen one like this, and I know we've all heard that before, but I think it's worth repeating. Donald Trump is a candidate that we just haven't seen before in American political history. He took the Republican Party by storm, trounced 17 different candidates, governors, senators, names that we all know, to become the Republican nominee, and then really gave Hillary Clinton a tight race almost through the entire general election campaign, and then had some very difficult moments. It was just a few weeks ago that Access Hollywood hot mic moment that came out. I've been talking to sources inside the Republican Party. You know, they thought they were finished after that came out. But in the debates that followed and in the weeks that followed, the closing stretch of this campaign, Donald Trump made this a very tight competitive race, and that's why you're seeing what's reflected in the poll right now, which is that he does have a shot at winning this. Now, he comes into this as the underdog, no question about it, and the path to 270 electoral votes is very difficult for him right now. He has to pretty much pull off what I call the Trump trifecta. He has to win Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio. 2 of those 3 states were won by President Obama 4 years ago, so he faces a very daunting task tonight. Isaiah, he's a tough act to follow. He was showing you around the room. They're at the Javits Center where Hillary Clinton is going to be. Donald Trump is at the Hilton Hotel, which is a stone's throw from Trump Tower. People are starting to gather here tonight, but as the night goes on, it'll be very interesting to watch just how this very unconventional candidate responds to these results later on tonight, guys.
Jim, Chris Webber here, and in basketball we've seen the likes of a Steph Curry whose shooting ability has changed the game and the narrative. Now more teams shoot threes, the game has changed in transition. We've heard so much about this election, especially maybe there's never been an election reported like this before. For the media, for you, how do you think it's going to change elections to come and how the media covers elections?
It's a great question, Chris, and I don't know if you've been watching some of these Trump rallies that I've been covering and my colleagues have been covering these last few weeks. They have some fairly unkind things to say to the news media, and one thing that Donald Trump has done, and he likes to talk about how he has great relationships with athletes, he has directed a lot of hostility and anger at the journalists covering his campaign. I'd love to be lighthearted and throughout this segment and talking to you guys, but I do think that is one thing that we're going to have to watch in future campaigns if other candidates try to emulate that. But it's always gratifying to cover something like this. We're watching history in the making. We're watching our American democracy do its thing every 4 years. I've traveled all over the world covering the White House with President Obama. I've been to some countries where the public, the people don't have a say. They're getting state TV. They're getting state media. You turn on your Facebook in Beijing, China, it doesn't work because the government doesn't always allow you into your social media apps. So we're very fortunate to have this process play out in this country. And, I have to pinch myself sometimes thinking that I'm going to be here later on tonight to see exactly what Donald Trump is going to do. I have to tell you, I think this is going to be must-see TV, whether, when if it goes into overtime, double overtime, triple overtime, he's always fascinating to watch.
Hey, Jim, Greg Anthony here, and we hear this every election cycle, how this has been the most divisive and nasty and bitter campaign. Right. That being said, what do you think is going to be the prospect for whomever wins to try to heal all these wounds and then bring the country back together?
I think it's going to be tough sledding, honestly. If you listen to the rhetoric that has been used during the course of this campaign, Donald Trump referred to Hillary Clinton throughout this race as Crooked Hillary. And you have some Republican candidates who are running for election tonight who have said that they're going to begin the impeachment process as soon as she's elected, if she's elected, and when she's sworn into office. We have to get away from that kind of talk in this country if we're ever going to get anything done, quite honestly. And conversely, the Democratic side is not totally clean on this. They have also used rhetoric aimed at the Republicans. A lot of Democrats out there might say, well, Donald Trump has really deserved it. But I think on both sides, we just have to lower the rhetoric. We have to turn down the temperature. We've got some real problems in this country. Isaiah Thomas was just talking about, I think he's exactly right when it comes to this relationship between the law enforcement community and our communities of color across the country. We have to address that. That just has to be taken care of. And we're just not going to get to any of these big problems in this country if we're tearing each other apart. Unfortunately, we did not see the kind of campaign that Americans deserve in the year 2016, but we can hope for better in 2020.
Lastly, Jim, and I know this is very tough to gauge from where you stand, but when we get off the set tonight about 10 o'clock Eastern time, when we're done with our work and we turn to the election coverage, are we going to know at 10 o'clock who the next president of the United States is going to be, or is this going to be a long night?
Wow, that's a great question. 4 years ago, I was with Mitt Romney at his campaign headquarters, and the Romney people were shocked that result came in pretty early. President Obama won re-election handily, had well over 300 electoral votes. You need 270 to win. And it was an outcome that a lot of people did not see coming. The polls going into that election, Barack Obama and Mitt Romney were tied. This time around, it's not that way. If you look at all of the major national polls, Hillary Clinton is in the mid to upper 40s. Donald Trump is in that mid to lower 40 range. It's hard to get elected president of the United States when you're in that territory. My hunch is that, yes, we are going to get some results before midnight tonight. But Ernie, I have to tell you, this year has been so unpredictable that I don't want to place any bets at this point. Donald Trump has tapped into some feelings out there, out in the country, parts of this country that a lot of us don't visit anymore, in the working towns of Pennsylvania and Ohio and Indiana and so forth, where people are hurting. They didn't benefit from the recovery after the Great Recession. If a lot of those folks go to the polls and vote with a vengeance, then we might have a different outcome tonight. But the numbers tell me, the metrics tell me that's not going to be the kind of night that he was hoping for.